Welcome to another episode of CrossTalk. My name is Kevin Kochi, and I will be your host for this episode. The idea of CrossTalk is to keep you better informed about some of the things that are going on in and around the two communities we serve, Whitman and Hanson, and not so much give you a better idea, but it gives us an opportunity to kind of drill down into a conversation and give you a better idea as to what's going on. Today, it so happens that we are going to be having a little bit of a wrap-up or a recap in regards to the town of Whitman, who have been having a series of events to celebrate 150 years. Wow. You don't look a day over 125, Whitman. Joining us is the chairman of the Whitman 150 Celebration Committee, Mr. Richard Rosen.
Kevin, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, now that the celebration events are in the rearview mirror, your overall reflections of how everything turned out.
Well, I can gleefully say that I'm glad they're all over. We started meeting a year ago, July, and with a really great committee. I think that all of the events went very, very well. They were very well received. They were very well attended. It was just really good. I think it was just a really good celebration for the town of Whitman.
When you first started a year ago planning the 150th, did you imagine the scope of what the town would end up accomplishing in celebrating the 150th?
Not really. I mean, you know, I did the 125th, and frankly, I don't remember a lot of the events. I just, time goes by and you don't remember. We started meeting a year ago, July. I picked these people to be part of the committee. Some of them have been on committees with me before, some of them not. Absolutely the best committee I've ever had. All people that live in Whitman, some of them townies, again, some of them in committees, and we just put together a really good show. And, I've said it before, a lot of towns have the historical events, and they'll do a one-day event, and it will be historically driven about things that happened hundreds of years ago. But we wanted to do a series of events that were fun, not just, because I've seen some historical events that really weren't all that much fun. But we wanted to do a series of events that the whole town could participate in. And I think we achieved that. There were a number of events that hundreds of people literally participated in, such as the road race, out to watch the parade. So I think we really accomplished a lot of good things.
Let's talk about some of the big highlights. Let's start off with the kickoff dinner. What kind of response did you get from folks who attended and were able to not only take in the meal and be able to talk with other community members, but even take in your terrific speech?
Well, thank you. We had nothing but high marks for that event. A lot of people thought they might want to come, but they weren't sure they could come, and they weren't sure what it was going to be, and they didn't go. But when they saw it on Whitman Cable, they were, geez, I wish we had been there. Unfortunately, we couldn't have fit them in the room. We filled the room at the Holy Ghost, at the Cardinal Spellman Center, which that in itself was historical. People didn't understand, why we didn't rent some huge hall. Well, first of all, we needed it in Whitman to be historically correct. And I remember being at events in the Spellman Center years ago that were great events, other than just playing basketball and stuff. So we transformed that room. If you remember, it looked really nice. We fit, I think, 210 or 220 people in there. We had some guest speakers, and as you know, we moved them along pretty quickly. I didn't want a repeat of what happened 125 years ago, which was fine. It's just that the guest speaker went on for about a month and a half, literally starting at the Ice Age. I didn't want that to happen. So we did a speech. I did a speech that took me literally 3 months to do. And I was up at night, and I'd wake up and I'd write things down, and I remember things. And it was a recent history of the town of Whitman, concentrating on the businesses. and the business community that goes back to the 1800s,
Sure.
early 1900s, after the war. I mean, we had 3 businesses there. We had people from 3 businesses that have been around since the 1800s. So that's a pretty big achievement. And to talk about a business that, is right behind us that had 1,200 employees. I mean, think about a few blocks from Whitman Center. One business had 1,200 employees. So that night was a really, really cool night, in my opinion, and it was very well received. So much so that it was only the second time in my life I ever got a standing ovation, which was very touching.
So who was your test audience before you gave your speech? Did you do it for Kathy, or did you sit back and Danielle, your daughter's down, or was the grandchildren that you were like, all right, listen?
I borrowed a buddy's dog. No, I didn't. I read it out loud a couple of times, like I've done on a number of my speeches. I'll stay in my office, close the door, and read them out loud. But again, even that, I wasn't sure what the reception was going to be, where I was heading, and the reception was amazing.
You got a lot of laughs. You got a lot. You touched on some things that had humor, but then a lot of people are going, oh.
It wasn't meant to be funny. No. It was meant to be historical, but there were some funny things in that. And I could hear people in the audience when I mentioned a certain business or a certain place. I could hear people.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And I could see people doing that, which was really meaningful to me, that I had hit home. So it was good.
Yeah. And just for folks who know, I happen to be in attendance, so that's how I'm kind of able to, as myself and Paul Watson were there, as well as a couple other WHCA staff members who were there, who helped produce some of what you've been able to see on WHCA, whether it's been on local cable or on YouTube. The time capsule is always one of those historical traditions. What went into deciding what should be included, and when could we see it opened again? It probably won't be in our lifetimes, right?
No, it won't be in our lifetime. It will be opened in the year 2100.
Okay.
The one that we planted in 25 years ago will be opened in 2075.
Okay.
My guess is most of us won't be around for that. So again, we did the 25 years ago, buried a time capsule. A number of the same things that went in that one 25 years ago were in this one. This one was really special with the school kids being involved doing essays called Wonderful Whitman. And the winners obviously got to put their essays in the time capsule, and they received prizes from Northeast Savings Bank, who was an amazing sponsor for this whole series of events. There was some cool things. There was a Bruins hockey puck. There was a baseball. There was marriage licenses and death certificates and person's list of books. And I think people are going to wonder what. It's going to be a very small snapshot of what life was in 2025 when they open it. So I should probably say this now. For those that are not aware, the time capsule was buried, and someone at the bank decided that they wanted to have the town seal put on the outside of the time capsule to be buried. Okay. Time capsule came. They had the town seal on it. I picked it up. We brought it. We filled it. We put everything in it, and we buried it. 15 minutes later, somebody came over to me and said, "Do you know that Whitman was spelled wrong?"
No, Massachusetts was spelled.
Oh, I'm sorry, Massachusetts. I went, no.
At least Whitman was spelled right.
Whitman was spelled right.
Yeah.
Massachusetts was spelled wrong. I'm like, no way. I don't think you're going to be happy. I said, I think it's hilarious. What do you mean? I said, because in the year 2100, they're going to open this thing and they're going to look at it and go, were these people stupid? They couldn't spell Massachusetts right? So what are you going to do? It's already buried.
Yeah. But there's also a good chance that with it being buried and the moisture that they may not be able to see.
I'm hoping deep down that they can, and they're going to wonder if we were like playing a joke on them or we were just stupid. But what you don't really know is when I said something to the people that provided that time capsule and the seal, it was spelled wrong. I don't know what they thought, because they went and got another one. It was spelled wrong on that one too. But anyway, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
One of those quirky little things.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the road race. You mentioned it a few minutes ago. This brought in a mix of residents and runners from around town and outside of the community as well. How important is it to blend recreation and community pride in such a celebration?
It's extremely important. I mean, again, it's one of those events where anybody could be in it, whether you walk, whether you ran, whether you just showed up. But that day was also the rededication of the Memorial Arch.
Right.
So the fire station property got a lot of use that day. But it was important for people to be there. It was a spectacular day. A lot of Whitman people ran, and there was a lot of people out of town. But it just had people coming to the town. All the events that we did, again, as I said, we wanted the community involved. We wanted people involved. We wanted it to be fun. There was also a scavenger hunt that afternoon put on by the Recreation Commission in the town park. So that was a really busy day. And it's all good for the town of Whitman. And that's really why we did this. It's all good. You need, in this day, and I remember sitting probably in the same chair about 40 years ago, or 30-something years ago, when we started Winterfest, that I needed something positive to happen, because there was a lot of bad things going on. And you know what? There's a lot of bad things going on right now, and we just needed to forget about those for a while and just go out and enjoy yourself and have a good time. And I think we did that.
I think what's wonderful, anytime you or anybody brings up Winterfest, the first thing that pops into my mind is our early conversations. One of the first times I sat down and talked with you about Winterfest, promoting it, and you're like, "There's only supposed to be one." And it was supposed to be one Christmas, one Winterfest, and then it became two, then it became three, and then 20 years later, it was thought, well, we've done it for 20 years.
Yeah, it was sad the way that it ended, but we're all 20 years older. Yeah. It was a lot of work.
We had committee members who were, involved from the start.
And I raised a lot of money. There was a couple of things that we sacrificed time every year to do that. We sacrificed a week of summer vacation to do the carnival.
Well, you had to hope that you didn't have rain either.
And that happened occasionally. We had a blizzard once. We had reindeer on the carnival. But I mean, I wanted it to continue, but there was nobody that could continue it. I had some people approach me, and I said, you find 12 people that are willing to commit 1 year of their life and raise $12,000 to $15,000 that are willing to do this. I'll sit down and show you how to do it. And nobody ever stepped forward. It's unfortunate, but what are you going to do? Things change. Nothing lasts forever, as they say.
You mentioned the World War I Memorial Arch, which I think was probably one of the more meaningful moments to include that in the celebration. What did it mean to you and the committee to make sure that that was something that was part of the festivities?
As I say, we wanted all these fun events. We did want some historical meaning to what we were doing, other than my speech and some of the other things. That was huge. That was huge. The historical committee did a ton of work in raising the funds to have that done, and then to actually have it done, and to have it done on time that we could do it at the same time. I think
fantastic.
It was very, very important.
It looks fantastic.
It touched a lot of people. I'm very proud of that too. So that was good.
Some would say that the parade was the centerpiece of the celebration. Can you share some of the behind-the-scenes efforts that it took to pull this together, pull it off, and maybe a couple of your favorite moments?
So the parade was probably the largest parade Whitman has ever seen. Excuse me. I remember as a youngster, we had Memorial Day parades that my dad owned a garage, and I would drive a car in the parade bringing someone with it. And the spectators were 3 deep in the, whether it be the Tri-Town Day Parade when it was in Whitman or the Memorial Day. There was a ton of spectators. I was a bit disappointed in the amount of people that showed up, but it was also about 300 degrees.
Yeah, it's very warm.
Timmy Travis basically organized the parade, and he did an amazing job.
He did.
He and I met at the beginning, and we were talking about it, and Timmy and I would have some private conversations, and I said, Timmy, you're going to have to do the parade. He didn't want to do it. He did. He took it very seriously, as you know. And towards the end, we we were pretty stressed out about organizing a parade that had 6 divisions, and there was hundreds of participants in the parade.
Yeah.
We met with, I said to him, let's go meet, because we did the parade 25 years ago, me and him. I don't remember doing it. Things have changed. Back in those days, you didn't have to pay for bands. We had to pay for every band. We had 8 marching bands. We had to pay for all of them. So we had to get the money to pay for them. And we met with Mr. Bailey in Abington, who runs the...
Jack Bailey.
Jackie Bailey, who I've known since I was a kid, who runs the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Fantastic job he does.
And I called him up, and he's been doing it for a long time. I called him up one day, and I went, Jack, can you meet with me and Tim Travis? So Jackie came to my office, and we sat for a couple of hours, and he was really helpful to us in doing the blueprint for what we did. What Timmy did. Who do you want to do this? Who do you want to do that? And he and I had a number of discussions. There was a lot of discussions amongst the committee members of who should be the Grand Marshal. That was probably the most contentious thing that we had in over a year. It wasn't contentious, it was just different ideas.
Yeah.
And
we settled on
which I think was an absolutely spectacular idea. Co-Grand Marshals, John Duval, Kathy Tien. Absolutely perfect.
Great choices.
A lot of people wanted it to be me and Timmy. No.
I did mention you.
You did,
I did.
And a few other people, and no. I appreciate the idea, but it was more important that I be at the site and get that parade formed. You know how hard it is to form a division when everybody's standing there going, and they needed to be in the right order, so you, as the gentleman that was the announcer of the parade, who was provided a booklet, we had a couple thousand booklets prepared, wasn't calling the wrong person when they went by. That's not easy. And we had 6 divisions, and they were all over the place on a really hot day. We actually, at the morning of the parade, we had a couple of organizations bail out because it was so hot. It was so warm.
It's interesting you say that. You mentioned Tim. Tim was responsible. Anybody who watched the parade, you hear my voice in the background as I'm announcing who's coming. A lot of that is attributed to Tim Travis and Richard Rosen, primarily Tim, giving me this information, revising it as he needed to. Interesting you talk about Jack Bailey. You mentioned Jack. I actually went to a friend we both share, Sean Riley, who has been the voice of the Abington St. Patrick's Day Parade for many, many years, who is also, I think, the nephew of Jack Bailey.
It is his
and asked him, because Sean Riley does an amazing job when it comes to being a community leader and really champion a lot of the folks who are part of the community. And maybe he'll add little excerpts here and there. And so I went to him and I said, listen, this is the first time I'm doing this. I'm used to talking in different forms, but I'm feeling privileged being able to do this. And it's just so interesting that we kind of talked in the same circle.
And by the way, you did a great job. You always do a great job. People have no idea how hard you work to do the things that you do. And I want to thank you for, not just the parade, but for everything else you do. You work hard and you do a lot for the town of Whitman, as well as Whitman Cable does a lot for us.
20 years.
I appreciate it. You've been 20 years?
20 years here.
Wow.
Yep. I'm the last of the Mohicans, one of the last of the Steve Roy, Paul Watson, who's working behind the scenes now. But when WHCA first was formed as a nonprofit, serving Whitman and Hanson, Steve Roy, the late Steve Roy. Let's not forget Carol Brewster, who's done a lot of great work over in Hanson, and I was brought in to help the folks in Whitman, and it's been an honor and a privilege to be able to not only talk with folks like yourself, but the many people in the town and cover events and be able to do what I do.
Did I ever tell you that I was on the Board of Selectmen that signed the original agreement for Continental Cable?
That.
It was in 1983 or 1984, and we were under tremendous political pressure not to sign Continental Cable, which was doing Brockton, then Whitman, and it was an interesting time back then, and we chose Continental, and we now have what we have. And looking back 40 years, I think it was the right thing to do.
I definitely agree.
Just a little side note.
Let's talk a little bit about, you had a concert to wrap it up. I mean, you had to move the concert because of inclement weather, the concert and the fireworks, to August. That capped things off with a bang. Talk to me about planning the finale, and how do you feel that it was memorable for the community?
So, again, being under tremendous pressure by a lot of people, we have, you know, these things don't happen with one phone call going, hey, can you do this? There's a lot of planning to prepare for a concert and fireworks. There's a lot of things that happen. That was when it was supposed to be in June, whatever the date was. And that was when it was raining every Saturday for like 13 weeks. And I'm looking at the long-range forecast, and I'm like, hey, this doesn't look good. So Monday of that week, it was like, what are we going to do? Tuesday, I'm getting calls from committee members and other people. And I called the fireworks guy, who I've dealt with for decades, literally, going back to, it's over 25 years, the original days of Winterfest. They're the same people, by the way, that do the Esplanade. I have a relationship with the guy. I said, what are we going to do if it rains? He goes, well, you know, I said, listen, I may want to postpone this. He said, yeah, we'll see what we can do. So I called Ken Snow from the Jake Ash Band, and I said, the weather doesn't look good. What do you think about postponing it? We based it around their availability. And their availability was, I think, August 16th, might have been the date. And this was back in June. And was it June? Yeah. And that was going to be the last event. No, the parade was. But anyway, Ken said, I think we can do it on August 16th. Okay. Fireworks guy, we can do it August 16th. So this was like on Wednesday. Then I had to call and postpone the porta potties because I didn't want to pay a fortune to have those delivered. And police, fire, DPW, a whole lot of things. That Saturday morning came, and I was praying for rain. I wanted it to rain so hard to make my decision the right one. I didn't have to pray that hard. That night, when the fireworks were supposed to go off, it was 54 degrees. Yeah. It would have been miserable sitting out in that field.
Nobody would want to see that.
As it turned out, you know, we had an absolutely spectacular night.
Yep.
For the concert and the fireworks. It was warm. It was beautiful. We had the field sprayed by Plymouth County Mosquito Control. We had 4 food trucks. The lines were huge. The concert was great. The fireworks were terrific. You know, not everything always goes the way that it's supposed to go. And I'll just tell you this real quickly, because not everything from the planning aspect happens the way you plan it. You have to have porta potties. So I've been dealing with the same company for a number of years, and we had them at the road race, we had them at the parade. So I had these arranged, and they were supposed to be delivered on Friday. And they were supposed to have called my cell phone so I could show them where to put them. So I had talked to a woman, and this person had, her and I have been dealing again for years. The address was next to the Whitman police station. But they were going to deliver them Friday, call my cell before they delivered. Thursday, I got a phone call from someone from the DPW, the new DPW, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, you need to, because it's
amazing.
It's spectacular. I'm very proud of that building. He calls me up and he goes, we just came back and there's 3 porta potties out here. We think they might be for your event. And he said, and they're in the way. Okay. This was like at 10 past 1 on Thursday.
Oof.
I started calling the phone number, and it went to a voicemail. And I wanted to get whoever dropped them off to come back, because once you put water in them, you can't just go pick them up and move them. I called several times on Thursday, no answer. Friday morning, I start calling this cell phone, this company phone number, went to a voicemail. Called another phone, went to voicemail. This is Friday. Now I'm like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to have a big crowd here Saturday night. I got to have porta potties. So I called a friend of mine who recently went into the porta potty business, and I said, listen, if I need 3 porta potties for an event tomorrow night, you think you can get them? He said, yeah. When can I get them? So when do you want them? I said, now. I met them Friday afternoon. They dropped off 3 porta potties. I never got through to that company. Monday they came, they picked them up, and they took them away. And I'm like, I documented it all. I'm like, this isn't going to go well.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got a bill for several $100s, and I called the girl. I found a different phone number. I explained it to her. She says, I have it right here. They're supposed to be delivered Friday. I can see they delivered Thursday. He didn't call you? No. I said, they're in the wrong place. So they issued me a credit. But it's just those little things that happen that people aren't aware of.
I don't know, yeah.
And it's happened on other events where we've had just little glitches. But it's just, when you do these things, it's just one of those
You
things.
work through them.
You need to be able to deal.
Do you feel that the 150th helped remind people of Whitman's history and identity, and maybe spark some new interest in Whitman's story?
I hope so. I think so, and I hope so. My daughter, Danielle, who you know, and son-in-law were on the committee. They did all the social media stuff. Danielle grew up in, obviously, seeing our Winterfest meetings all the time and all the other events and stuff that we've done. They're very much interested in doing something, and I hope they do. And there are some other younger people that are getting involved. It's spurred some interest in the Whitman Hanson Alumni Association. So yes, I believe it has, and I hope it does, because I'm not going to be around forever, and someone's got to do this stuff.
Other than the porta potties, can you pick one defining moment of the 150th that will stick with you personally, and what would it be? If you could pick a moment.
I know this sounds very self-serving, but it was the reaction to my speech at the kickoff. That meant a lot to me. Everything else, the fireworks was spectacular. Standing there watching those fireworks really brought back memories of a lot of other things. But I think me personally, was the reaction to my speech, which meant a lot to me.
So what happens next? I mean, are there plans to continue these traditions? I mean, perhaps, you know,
listen,
are we looking to see who's going to pick up the ball for one season?
I did Winterfest for 1 year that lasted 20. I dropped the cookie, and we had to celebrate. We were going to do it once because it was the Toll House, it was Nestle's history and all that stuff. We did it twice. 2 of the coldest New Year's Eves you could ever imagine. Not doing it.
I was there for that.
I know you were.
I did a live radio broadcast during that outside of your former pub, cold as could be, and you saw about 20-25 minutes before the cookie dropped, people just started flooding the center. It was amazing. It
was amazing, and I thought we were going to be out there just freezing to death, which we were. We were. I had people at the fireworks grabbing me when I was leaving, going, "Are we doing this next year?" You might be, but I'm not. You know, I'm not doing it. I shouldn't say I'm not doing it. I have no intention, as we sit here, there's no other events to be had in the near future.
Anything that we haven't touched upon in regards to celebrating this milestone in Whitman's history, but you want to make sure you take a moment to touch upon it? Maybe it's something we talked about, but you just want to reiterate.
I personally want to thank you, obviously, Whitman Cable, the police department, the fire department, the DPW, who did an amazing job, not only on the fireworks and the concert, but every event. All the events that we did, the DPW was instrumental in getting the police box into the Cardinal Spellman Center, which itself wasn't that easy. No. That thing was heavy, and getting it out of there. I want to thank the selectmen for giving me the opportunity to do this again, and the committee that I had, which was just, again, the best committee I've ever had. You know, the Timmy, Carolyn, and Travis, and Michelle Lamartino, of course, my wife, my daughter, and son-in-law, and Nancy Payton, and the Leonards, and Larry Roach, David Menard. It was just a great group of people that I've had the opportunity to work with. Some of them I've known all my life. Some of them I've known half my life, but they just did an amazing job. And just everybody that participated in the events and the people that came out, I just think it made it a really great series of events.
Well, again, I want to thank you. I want to thank your committee. I want to thank all those who were involved. with making it happen, and also thank the folks who work behind the scenes here at WHCA to capture those. If you haven't had a chance to see any of the, whether it's the kickoff dinner or the burying of the time capsule or the road race or the concert, it's easy enough. We schedule it to play back on the public channel, and you can see it on YouTube. I want to thank you again, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everything, Kevin.
You got it. And again, happy birthday to Whitman and those who were able to get out and celebrate and be involved. Again, it's your community. Until our next conversation here on CrossTalk, have yourself a great day.